Hello friends, and welcome to The Hanged Man in the Moon. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm pleased to meet you. If you've been here before, thank you for returning. I'm truly honored. Friends, if you are a returning visitor, you know that this is my series in which I use tarot and oracle cards to explore topics related to living the intentional life. And the new moon has come and gone, so I have a whole new set of decks ready for us to explore. But before we get to the decks and the spread, I'd like to check our mutual understanding of something. I'd like to briefly reflect on the idea of abundance. Now, abundance. Abundance, to me, is the architecture. It's the environment in which an intentional life is possible. Now, when we think about it, we probably would all agree that we are infinite and abundant beings in an abundant universe. But there are times when I think we place abundance in the future. I think there are times when we think that we are moving to abundance, that we are reaching for abundance, or that abundance is our goal. It's also perhaps somehow a trophy to show that we have been living a successful life. When in truth, we are beginning from abundance. Now, abundance is how an intentional life is possible. Why is that? Well, if you think about it, it's because we are in a universe, on a planet of infinite abundance, that we have the ability to set intentions. We can choose whatever we want. The reason we can choose whatever we want to place on the current, the river, the powerful river of our intention is because there is so much here for us to select from. There is so much here and we can select it. And there's really no competition for the things that we select. This is such an abundant universe, such an abundant planet, that my selection of something does not make your selection of something impossible. Because again, we're grounded, we are in an environment of abundance. If I choose to have this experience and you choose to have that experience, we can both have it because of abundance. If I choose to have a relationship with this kind of person and you choose to have a relationship with the same kind of person, we can have it. Because this is an abundant universe. This is an abundant planet. We are abundant in abundance. So there's no cutting up of pies, and if I get my slice of pie doesn't mean that you don't get yours. That's not how this universe works. That's not how an intentional life works. And of course, in that abundance of things, there are things that we want and there are things that we don't want. And yet we do want all of it here. We want all of it here because that's part of it being abundant. It's part of our being able to choose. I want this, I don't want that. And in our being able to choose between the wanted and the unwanted, we are able to expand, we're able to evolve, and the universe evolves from that. So all of this abundance is what intention is grounded in. It's what evolution arises from and creates more of. All of this is because of abundance. And so abundance truly is foundational. An understanding of abundance is the framework within which we can understand an intentional life. If we are focusing on lack, if we are focusing on lack of abundance, we cannot live intentionally. Yeah? We cannot co-create the lives we think we want for ourselves. If we think we have to struggle for them, or we have to fight for them, or we have to compete for them, or we have to knock somebody off of their trail so that we can keep going on ours. It's the abundance that is here that allows us to be intentional. Instead of competitive, instead of aggressive, instead of struggling and fighting for what we want. So friends, abundance truly is the key. Our understanding that this universe and that we as individuals are at every moment of every day of our lives, in these bodies and when we leave these bodies and before we have arrived in these bodies, we are abundance in abundance. That is key. That is absolutely key. And that's where this week's spread launches from. Now, the door to this week's spread, the opening of this week's spread, is the idea of abundance. So, the spread has been laid out. Let's take a look at it. What do you think of this spread? What do you think of the cards in this spread? These are all very classic decks. And if you are interested in finding out about these decks, who created them, there will, as usual, be a short clip at the end of this video, which gives you that information. And in the description box below, there are also links for you to go and explore these decks on your own and perhaps purchase one or all of them if you're interested. Now remember, I do not get any financial remuneration if you use those links. They're just for your convenience. And these decks are available. They are, in fact, classics, absolute classics. So take a look, explore, and for now, enjoy seeing them together in this spread. Now, if this is your first time here, let me give you a brief overview of this spread. The three cards in the center, you saw those three cards in the middle of this larger spread. Those are our oracle cards, which are different from tarot cards if you don't know. Yeah, their oracle cards are oracle cards. Well, okay. All of them are, in a sense, are oracle cards. Now, tarot is an oracle. Oracle cards are oracles. Kipper, Lenormand, Minakati, Tarot de Marseille, they're all oracles in a sense. However, we group a certain kind of cards, a certain kind of decks, under the name of oracle decks. So we have one oracle deck from which I've pulled three cards in the center of this spread, and they give us the main idea, the topic, the thesis statement, if you will, of this spread. And if you think of the spread as an essay, that's what this is. This is the introductory paragraph with the thesis statement. And then around those three cards, you saw four groups of cards. Yeah? At the base of each one of those groups, there is an inquiry card, a card with a question on it. And each one of those questions was answered by two tarot cards. Yeah? One tarot card from two different decks. And those four give us the body paragraphs of the essay. Now, four body paragraphs and one introductory paragraph for the essay. And we'll spend most of our time on the introduction because that is where the meat of this essay is. All of it is contained in that first three, that set of the three oracle cards. So, friends, let's take a look at the meat, the thesis statement of this spread. This is a truly classic oracle deck that I've had for quite a while, but I haven't really used. And now I'm wondering, why haven't I used it? Because they are beautiful and they're easy to read in a way. Yeah, they also draw us in like little TV screens. So what did we see? Reading them from left to right, you saw on the left, choosing your path, In the center was crossing bridges, and on the right was infinite abundance. Now, I don't know if you noticed this, but if you looked at the people in the cards were, for the most part, both looking from right to left, and the ones who are in motion look to be moving from right to left. And so I think the proper way to read these particular cards from the deck, laid in this particular order, is from right to left, instead of left to right. And so we'll begin with infinite abundance, which I told you was the door, was the entryway to this entire spread. And that's the reason why. And what did we see in infinite abundance? We saw some people gathered outside, and they had a cloth spread between them. There were three people dressed in women's attire, holding a cloth with perhaps nuts or something in the center, perhaps gathering nuts that were being knocked off of the trees above. Maybe they're walnuts, maybe they're chestnuts, maybe they're chestnuts. But so we get the idea of abundance that nature provides, right? And the quote beneath, did you see the quotes beneath each one of these cards? Yeah? The quote beneath this one read, abundance is pouring into your life. Abundance is pouring into your life. Sorry, I was just checking my card. Abundance is pouring into your life. Which is true. But it's pouring into our lives, not like it's pouring into an empty vessel, like we are poor, we have nothing, and abundance is pouring in to fill our cups. Rather, abundance is pouring into our lives of abundance. Now, abundance is not coming to fill a gap of something that is lacking or something that is missing. We aren't lacking and we're not missing anything. We are abundant in abundance. Does that make sense to you? So, infinite abundance. The reason why it's infinite is because we are infinitely abundant, and because of that, we are able to receive an infinite amount of abundance as well. It's infinity in infinity. So what is the meaning of this card? One thing is, everything is blossoming and bearing fruit. And what a perfect message for this time of year. Right now, here in Korea, the trees have blossomed. Suddenly, I think it was last week that magnolias suddenly came into bloom. The forsythia, the yellow forsythia came into bloom. Plum blossoms have blossomed, and I think the cherry blossoms are ready. All of nature has suddenly woken up in a brilliance of blossoming flowers. So this was a perfect way to start this spread, because that's where we are. We're in the middle of the blossoming time of year. But it's not only in spring. Now, abundance is ever flowing into abundance. Yeah? We're always blossoming. Everything is always blossoming, whether we're paying attention to it or not. Not in the external world, perhaps. Not in the world of trees in winter and flowers in fall. But I should have said that the other way around. Yeah, not in the sense of trees in fall and flowers in winter, but in the sense of our emotions, experiences, creations, all of it is blossoming at every moment of every day, of every year, of infinity. So everything is blossoming. Also, prosperity is activated. Prosperity is eternally activated. Not now as opposed to 10 minutes ago or as opposed to a year ago, but now and now and now and now and now. Prosperity is ever and eternally activated, being activated. It's an infinite activation of prosperity. Also, this is a card that tells us that the divine wants us to prosper. We can see that in nature. Yeah? It's not only us humans that are being abundant or that are prospering. Yeah? Nature shows us, gives us abundance. And we saw that in this card, right? The chestnuts, I'm going to call them chestnuts. Whether they're chestnuts or not, I'm going to call them chestnuts. The chestnuts that we can eat are there and ready for us. Nature provides and teaches us the abundance of the divine. Nature is our first and primary teacher, I believe. Our teacher of the divine, our teacher of abundance, our teacher of intentional living, our teacher of love, joy, well-being, and pure awareness. Nature teaches us all of that. This card also shows us that we can move towards our dreams, and our dreams can be activated as well. Have you ever had a dream of abundance, of harvesting, of receiving from nature? That was a wonderful dream of abundance. In Korea, its dreams of pigs are often considered a dream of abundance. But each culture has its own dream of abundance, and this card is here to remind us of that, remind us of the dream and realization of abundance, and moving towards harvest. While we are in abundance, we're always moving towards more abundance. Because abundance is not something that is static. It's something that we move with and through. Now, we are abundant now, we move with abundance, and we move in the direction of abundance. And all of it is infinite. However, this card also reminds us that we want to, there's no judgment here. I'm not saying you must, and if you don't, you're in trouble. I'm not saying you have to, you need to. It's all our choice. But we benefit from knowing our worthiness. And knowing our worthiness to receive the abundance that is already here is also key to living an intentional life. Do you feel worthy? Do you recognize your worthiness? Do you know deep in your soul, in your spirit, deep from your core, that you are worthy? You are worthy. You were born worthy. You were born as a worthy being in this abundant universe, worthy to receive. Do you recognize that? Because you are. You truly are. And one wonderful thing in this universe of abundance and infinite abundance that it is, we give of who we are. We are so abundant that we can give to others, and in that giving to others, we also receive. And that works for everything from love. We give love in order to receive love. We give attention in order to receive attention. We give interest in order to receive interest. We give creativity in order to receive the creative spark. We give of our material wealth and in order to receive material wealth. It's all a cycle of giving and receiving, and that's what helps fuel the abundance that is here. Just as a tree gives of its seeds to the ground, which allows another tree to flourish, and the tree gives its leaves to help nourish the ground, and then the ground nourishes the tree, and then the tree grows. It's all giving and receiving. Giving of worthiness, not giving of unworthiness. I am unworthy to receive, and so I give. I give in my worthiness, and I give in my abundance, and I give in my love, and I receive, because I'm open, and I'm worthy, and ready to receive. And we give and receive in gratitude. And gratitude is the attitude of the infinite life. The infinite life, yes. The intentional life. And gratitude is the attitude of the intentional life. I like that. I just came up with that. But yeah, it is. It truly is. Gratitude is the attitude of an intentional life. We're grateful for everything that comes into our experience because it, one, allows us to make decisions, allows us to create more of what we want, and allows us to move past and beyond and perhaps give back the things that we don't want because someone else will probably want them. And we move towards the things that we think that we want, the things that we have placed on our powerful river of intention. We move towards those and we have the experience and we realize that some of those things, yes, we really do want and we want more of them. And we realize that some of those things that we placed on our powerful river of intention are things that we don't actually want any more of. We've had the experience, we realize that it wasn't exactly what we thought and we want something else. And so the river continues, and we keep placing other things on the river of intention, and we keep moving towards them in gratitude, grateful for all of that. Because our gratitude is an open attitude. It's an open stance. It's a position of openness to the powerful flow of intention. Along with love, along with joy, along with well-being and pure awareness. Gratitude. Abundance and gratitude go hand in hand. And more gratitude allows us to be open to more abundance. So this card is a wonderful entry point to this spread. We begin knowing our worthiness. We begin knowing our abundance. And then what do we move into? We move into crossing bridges. Sorry, got this little itchy nose here. Large itchy nose here. And in this card, we saw a figure moving from right to left over a bridge, looking like it's an East Asian setting. Now, the architecture looks East Asian, perhaps Chinese, perhaps Korean, perhaps Japanese, but that circular arching bridge, right? Crossing bridges. And this card tells us or reminds us that we can let go of the past. There's no sense in dragging our entire histories along with us as we move with the powerful flow of intention. Does that make sense to you? Now, I'm not saying we want to ignore the past. I'm not saying that we want to suppress the past. I'm not saying that we want to box our past up and hide it away somewhere in a closet, because that's the same thing as carrying it forward with us. And I'm not saying that we need to forget everything of the past. There are some things that we want to carry forward, certainly. But there is so much that we can let go of. There are so many things that we can let go of and we don't. For many reasons, whatever reason we might have. What are some of your reasons for not letting go of things in the past that you don't particularly feel are supporting you on your journey? There are those things for all of us right now. So why do you think you carry yours with you? There could be many reasons. I'm not saying that there's just one. They could be carried by us out of habit. Yeah? We thought about them last year. We thought about them the year before that. We thought about them yesterday. And by habit of thinking about them and remembering them, we just habitually keep thinking about them and we carry them forward. We could be carrying them forward as badges of honor. I suffered this and I went through that and I experienced this and this trauma and I am the victim. And we are all victims. We are all victims if we want to identify ourselves as such. We all have experiences in our lives in which we are the victim. The question is, do we identify as victim? Or do we identify as one who had an experience and has passed through it? They're very different. The one who identifies as victim is one who has constructed an identity of their experience. I am the victim of this. The one who recognizes that they have moved through an experience and that experience has affected them, has changed them, perhaps, hopefully, has allowed them to grow. But they are not the victim. They're the ones who have had an experience, and that experience has changed them, and they are now moving forward. Which one do you see yourself as? Personally, I sometimes recreate victimhood for myself, even now. I do. I look back at childhood experiences or experiences from a year ago when I lost my job, and I sometimes fall back into I am a victim. But then I wake up. I eventually wake up and I realize that no, I am not a victim. I am one who had an experience that was painful, that hurt. And perhaps I hope I've grown from it. I think I've grown from it. I'm still in the process of growing from it. The one last year. I think I've grown from the ones from my childhood. I think I've grown from the ones of my early adulthood. I think I've grown from the ones where was beaten up, for example, as an adult. I mean, I've had experiences where I could cast myself as victim of society, of individuals. But I think I'm able to move forward without carrying those experiences with me, for the most part. Although they're still there. They're still there. And sometimes I realize that there are still traces that I'm dragging along with me. But we don't have to. We don't have to. And it doesn't mean erasing the memory either. It just means letting the experience go. Like, do you remember, have you seen A Christmas Carol? You remember the character of Bob Marley? Not Bob Marley, Bob Marley? Bob Cratchit and Marley. His first name is not coming to me. But Ebenezer Scrooge had a partner named Marley who passed away, right? And Marley's ghost comes, and Marley's ghost is covered in chains and boxes and dragging these things in through along with him in the afterlife, in the death experience. And that's not letting things go. Things that happened to us and also things that we have done. We can let those things go as well. And let's get into that in just a moment. So, letting go of the past, beginning a new cycle. And beginning a new cycle, not at the beginning of the year or the beginning of a month, but every moment of every day we can begin a new cycle. And does that sound exhausting to you? It doesn't have to be exhausting, because the idea of, oh my God, I've got to begin a new cycle is one of fear, of resistance, of imagining the work that's going to happen, instead of the imagining of, oh, these wonderful experiences that I'm going to have in this new cycle. The flowers are going to bloom in this new cycle, and this new cycle, and this new cycle. It's also the idea of, oh my God, another cycle, is because after the blooming, I'm going to have to start letting things go. Which is another side of the coin, but also we can let things go. It's all our attitude of gratitude, that allows us to enjoy the cycle that begins every second of every day. And we have biorhythms. There are so many cycles that are involved in this enticing, intriguing, beautiful, and complicated, and complex, and diverse experience of being a physical body in a physical universe. co-creating a physical body in a physical universe. So we begin new cycles at every moment of every day. And we can heal old wounds with people, from wounds that are related to people, wounds that are related to situations in the past. Now, those experiences that I spoke of, instead of identifying as the victim, we can identify as the one who has passed through them, and we can heal those wounds. And as we heal those wounds, that baggage begins to drop away, and we become lighter. And we'll talk about that in just a moment too. We can also make amends, because not all of the experiences that we have in life are because that we have suffered at the hands of another or the experience of our lives. We cause suffering to others as well. Even the purest, most enlightened and present Buddhist will cause suffering to another. The question is, one, are we doing it deliberately? Are we aggressively causing suffering? Is the suffering because of us in the sense that we caused the suffering, or is the suffering because the other is reacting with suffering to something that we are and something that we're doing? For example, if I go out and shout at somebody, let's take something that's in the news these days, gay. Now, there's a whole thing in Florida these days of don't say gay. It's foolish, it's stupid, but it's a thing. So let's take that. So I go to Florida and I find somebody on the other side of the political line or the other side of the religious line or whatever, and I go to that person and I shove my sexuality down their throat. And that person suffers. Because I'm aggressively attacking that person with my sexuality. And there are some people who do that. In that case, I am causing somebody's suffering. Another thing, I go to Florida or somewhere else, and it becomes evident that I am gay. And the other person looks at me and suffers because of that. They feel frightened. They feel disgusted. They feel embarrassed. They feel potentially attacked from my just being present there. Not because I'm doing anything to them, but just the fact of my being there can cause suffering to someone else. So there are different ways of understanding suffering. And if we really want to go into a long discussion of that, we could also say that every experience of suffering is really the responsibility of the sufferer. And we could distinguish between pain and suffering, and that's a whole other conversation. However, we do cause suffering, either actively or passively, in other people's lives. And when we have caused suffering by our actions, by our doing something, then we want to make amends. We want to make amends where we can, and then let it go. And that's what this card is also here to tell us about, is to remind us of, to make amends where we can, and to let it go. But that also means that there are times when we cannot make amends. There are times when we apologize, we do whatever we can to try to make amends, and the other person doesn't accept. So what do we do then? Do we still go after them? You are going to accept my apology or I'm going to... Is that the solution? I don't think so. No, it's not the solution. The solution is you try to make amends. You apologize for what you've done. You own what you have done. You express your desire to help the other person move through their experience of suffering. If they accept it, wonderful. You interact and you help the other person move through their suffering and you restore relationship. If the other person refuses, it's not your job to grab an axe and break down their barriers by force. You accept their reaction. We accept their reaction and we let it go. And that's another thing this card is here to remind us of, letting it go. We do what we can do and then we let it go. We restore, we reconcile. That's part of the healing process. We reconcile with the person that we have caused to be a victim, and we reconcile, if we can, with the ones who caused our sense of victimhood. If we can. And if we can't reconcile, we still let it go. When we're ready. We don't suppress it. We don't hide it. We don't box it away, because then we're still carrying it forward with us. And we're not letting it go. And it's going to build and grow and become grotesque and become a monstrous and then come back and attack us stronger than it otherwise would. And sometimes we might need to burn the bridges behind us. There are some times when we need to cut off, to sever relationship that is unhealthy and let that go too. There are times for that. There certainly are times for that. And we can discern when those times are. And that's part of the healing process. And we can also help other people traverse their bridges of healing. Which is what I was saying. When we have been the ones who have caused suffering, for example, and we apologize and we offer our assistance to help them move across the bridge of their healing. That's also part of this crossing of bridges. We cross our own bridges and we help those, when we can, to cross theirs. Although, remembering that if they refuse our help, if they are not interested in our help, in crossing their bridges, we allow them to live and their lives and have their experiences. And then we move on. And if they keep chasing after us, then we sever the bridge. We sever the relationship so that we can move on and heal. Does that make sense? Am I beating a dead horse? I could be. It's time to let that horse go, right? So let's move on to the third card, the card of choosing our path. So now we've come through this healing process, and now, again, we're looking at abundance, right? We're looking at an abundance of choices, directions for us to go in. This is a card of new territory and choosing our path. It's a card of being daring and going beyond predictable behavior, not doing the same thing over and over and over and over again. Although routines are good, there are good routines. However, if we only live our lives in routine, then we cut ourselves off from the powerful flow of intention, because the powerful flow of intention is going in the direction of the new and the exciting and the different and the more expansive and the evolved. And the new path. Moving beyond the comfortable. Now, once we have healed, we're ready to move beyond this easy chair that we might have found for ourselves and get up and get out into the world to explore, to learn, to grow, to expand. And sometimes we need to put down the pack and keep walking. Yeah? Remember I was saying that there are times that there's baggage that we've got. Our wounds, are the things that we haven't healed from, and even the things that we have healed from. Sometimes we lug those things forward with us, even though they are still weighing us down. Not weighing us down in the sense of I've identified myself as a victim, but I'm still carrying all of this experience forward with me. And some of the experience is not uplifting me. It's not adding to my power, my potential, but it's rather weighing me down. And it's those things that, even if they were wonderful experiences, even the wonderful experiences can weigh us down after time, when it's time for us to move beyond them. Sometimes it's just time to set everything down, almost everything down, and go forward with a light pack. Ever infinitely abundant, and still a light pack. Because we're here to expand. We're here to be extraordinary. And it's difficult to be extraordinary if we're carrying the last 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 50 years along with us. We can save the information to a hard drive in the cloud, perhaps, and not have to carry it all with us every moment of every day. We can go back and get information, certainly, without having to carry it with us every moment of every day. We want to travel light. We travel light so that we can receive, and after we receive and we experience and we have and we explore, we allow it to go into the past so that we're open again to receive more. Because we trust that we are infinitely abundant in an abundant universe, and we don't have to be pack rats of experience, of relationships, of whatever. We can let it all go and be light and free to move with this powerful flow of intention. As abundant beings in an abundant universe, an infinity of abundance, an infinite abundance that we are and that we're moving through. And it's because of that abundance that all of this is possible. Does that make sense? Isn't that a joyous thing? Can you see the joy of letting go of stuff? Both the good and the unwanted? I hope you can. I'm learning that. And as I'm learning, we have 4 questions to consider. And let's look at that first question. The first question is, where is my joy? And isn't that wonderful? Where is my joy? Did you see the answers? Did you notice that they were the same answer from both decks? That was so interesting. It was surprising, wonderful, and surprising. That's not something that happens very often. And when it does happen, it's like, yeah! Look here! It's a truly emphasized answer. So where is my joy? Both of them. The Knights of Rods, the Knights of Wands. And did you notice that they were both facing each other? Yeah? And these knights were not particularly on the attack in either one of these decks. Now, some decks, in Pamela Coleman Smith's deck, the Knight of Wands could look like they are about to enter into battle and to engage in battle, perhaps, or at least engage in something. Now, these two knights are very gently or very easily carrying their rods on their shoulders and looking at each other. Perhaps with interest, perhaps with curiosity. And that's a wonderful stance for these two answers to be revealing themselves to us in. The Knight of Rods. Who is the Knight of Rods? Or who are these two Knights of Rods? They're the knights of energy, of passion, of inspired action, and adventure. And that's where a lot of our joy comes from, does it not? Our joy can come from that adventure of spirit, that adventure of experience. Have you ever had an inspired action where you get this idea that, yes, I want to do that? And that feeling is very near joy. Yes, I can do that. What? Yes. That inspired action is a joyful experience and a passionate one, right? It's not, oh yeah, I could do that. Oh, that's a good idea. That's not an inspired idea, and it doesn't lead to an inspired action. But, oh, yeah, I could do that. That is an inspired action. That's an inspired idea. And it's a fiery one. It's one of energy and passion. And one that sparks joy. It could also be the card of impulsiveness, certainly, of impetuousness. But sometimes being impetuous is fun. Yeah, especially if you've lived in a very structured, routine life. Allowing yourself to be impetuous from time to time can be a source of joy. I'm going to play hooky. When I was a child, when I was a young adult, not a child, when I was a young adult in university, for example, I would allow myself one hooky day per semester. I would allow myself one day, and I would choose it carefully. I wouldn't choose a day where my most difficult classes were, or the day when I had the most classes, or the day when I had the most responsibility. I'd choose a light day, a day where if I missed something, it won't be the end of my career at the school. It wouldn't be the end of my possibility of attaining a good grade for that semester. But I pick a light day, somewhere in the middle of the semester, either after the midterm exams perhaps, or thereabouts. Pick one day. And I decide I'm not going to go to school. I'm going to do something fun for me. It would be a me day. And that was a kind of an impetuous thing to do. I mean, when I say I planned and I selected it ahead, I'm not saying I planned at the beginning of the semester. I arrive at a week and I think, I need a hooky day. What day is my hooky day this week? My hooky day this week is going to be Thursday because I don't have that many classes that day. Okay, so Thursday, I'm going to play. And that's kind of an impetuous thing to do, right? So that can be a source of joy. Allowing yourself to slither out of your routines for a day or for a moment. The Knight of Rods can also be the competitive card, yeah? And the hot-headed card. Now, hot-headedness, I don't think is going to be a source of joy for any of us. However, competition, let's look at competition. Competition can also be a source of joy if it is the right kind of competition. Not the competition of, I'm going to win at all costs, not the competition of, I'm going to beat the other one down to a pulp, but rather, I'm going to strive to be the best that I can be. I'm going to do the best that I can do this time. Perhaps competition with self, where there's no loser. There are only challenges and accepting challenges and attempting challenges and learning from challenges. That kind of competitiveness. The kind of competitiveness that inspires the best from everyone who participates. Rather than the kind of competitiveness that inspires aggression and beating down and knocking out. But the one that inspires the best from each one that is participating. That can be a joyful experience. The one of no losers and all winners. And we're not talking about participation trophies here. That's something entirely different. Yeah? Oh, you showed up, yay! No. The kind of competition that inspires the best out of everyone playing. And it's play. It's not war, it's play. That can inspire joy. So that's who these knights are. They're not facing off, they are facing each other. And they're feeding each other. And they're sharing the fire with each other so that each one's fire causes the other one's fire to burn more brightly. And the result is joy. So where is my joy? In abundance, in this intentional life. It's in my embodying my knights of rodsness, my being the knight of rods. In a male body, in a female body, in a non-gendered body, in a transgendered body, in whatever bodies we own, being the knight. Owning our knight of rodsness. So we find our joy, and then we have the next question. What is that question? The next question is, what is clear to me? So we've gone from joy, what is my joy, to what is clear. I'm happy now, what do I see? And what is clear? We got two interesting cards here. The Seven of Swords and the Six of Cups. And you'll notice that the Seven of Swords human is moving away from the Six of Cups. Under the Six of Cups, we've got two young-looking figures facing each other, and there are 6 cups with different plants growing in them, like the cups are actually flower pots, right? And so let's start with the Six of Cups. The Six of Cups is usually called the card of nostalgia, and in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, with Pamela Coleman Smith's art, we usually see these 2 small humans. We assume that they're children, but they might not be children. Yeah? 2 small humans looking at each other, one in male dress, one in female dress for the medieval period. Medieval period. And one seems to be offering a cup to the other, and there are other cups with flowers growing out of them, and they're in front of a large home, and there's a figure in shadows in the background, and it looks like 2 children who are sharing an emotion in a past event, and it's the card of nostalgia for most people. The card of childhood. The card of reminiscence, of looking back and remembering the joys of the past. It's a card of memories and innocence. Have that innocence of childhood, that innocent sharing of emotion and joy. But not the joy of perhaps the Knight of Rods or Wands, but rather the joy of youth and innocence of the past. Now, the joy of the spirit of Christmas past. Excuse me. The Six of Cups. Those things are wonderful. And it's clear to me that I have wonderful memories in my past, and those are part of my abundance now. However, they're also a trap. They're also the trap of the good old days. Yeah, things were wonderful then, they weren't wonderful then. Things were wonderful then, and now they suck. And that is a trap that a lot of us fall into, if not permanently, from time to time, at least. I think we've all had those moments of, I remember when, and wasn't it wonderful when this was like this, but now it's not. Now, we romance our past. Many of us romance our past. Not all of us. Some of us turn our pasts into a horror story. Some of us do the opposite of the good old days. We battle days ourselves. Yeah? That everything was pain and torture. Now, some of us actually did have pain and torture when we were young. That is true. That is true. And these are not the people that I'm speaking to right now. Now, for those of us who were in actual deeply painful situations in our past, sexual abuse as children, physical abuse as children, perhaps being in some sort of detention camp as a child. Yeah, it's not only the victims of the Holocaust that have been that were locked up as children. There are children all over the world being locked up and tortured in some way or another all over the world right now, from Africa to the United States, to Europe, to Asia. There are places all over the world where some children are being locked up and given and pain and suffering and torture. And if you're one of those people who have experienced that in the past, I am speaking not to you directly. Although there are some of those of us who have experienced something like that, who also have some memories of joy and wonder and enlightenment in the midst of that pain. But for those of us who lead fairly common lives, whether our families were together or our families split up, whether we were sent to foster homes or not, we still had relatively healthy childhoods with some pain and some joy, a mix of it all. The average human being, even though there is no average human being, each one of us have moments of suffering, and each one of us usually has moments of joy and excitement and wonder in our past. And a lot of us choose to look at the good stuff and forget the bad. But a lot of us also do the opposite, forget the good and focus only on the bad. And both of them are traps. Both sides are traps and hold us back if we get too entrenched in those memories, if we're not able to let them go, the good and the bad. So yes, if we are one of the ones who look back at childhood with, or our young youth or whatever in the past as the good old days, those good old days can become a trap for us. Especially if we're contrasting those good old days with these days of not good. And the opposite is true. Those of us who are entrapped in the bad old days and are carrying them with us through more bad days, another kind of trap. So, we look at the Six of Cups, and often it's just a soft, fuzzy card, but I think here, the clarity we want is to remember that, yes, there were times in our past when we had these experiences, and it's time to let it go. It's time to let it go and move on with the Seven of Swords. And now the Seven of Swords is generally considered a fairly negative card. It's a card of betrayal and deception and getting away with something, not in the good way, but in the bad way of getting away with something. Taking something that doesn't belong to you, or taking somebody else's opportunity. That's the card of getting away with something. Could be stealing, could be taking objects from somebody, but it could also be taking opportunities from somebody, stealing a relationship from somebody, getting away with something in that negative sense. And that's the meaning that a lot of people see in this card, and I see it in the card as well. I'm not denying that. But that's not the meaning that this card is showing us here in this spread. In this spread, what I see is the other side of that, acting strategically. Not following the crowd, but going my own way. It's a card sometimes of spontaneity. Yeah, the spontaneous idea of doing something, or to create something, or it's the spark of idea that instigates something new. And again, it's going our own way. You see in this card a person carrying 5 swords, leaving 2 swords behind, that which is interesting, yeah? This person isn't stealing or taking or carrying forward all of the swords. This person is carrying 5 of them and leaving 2 of them behind. These are the swords that I'm going to take with me, and I'll leave these others behind, yeah? Letting them go into the past. Taking the ones that are useful for them and letting the rest go. And going their own way. And so, in this card, this set pairing of cards, what I see is clear to me is the best way forward is to leave the past behind. No matter how pretty and soft and fuzzy it feels, to let it go into the past and move forward in my own direction, not following the crowd, not following the track that somebody else has laid out for me or is pointing me in the direction of, but rather going my own way with my own ideas and my own strategic plan, my own spontaneous desire is wants, my own spontaneous idea of where to go. So, what is clear to me? That's what's clear. I have my joy, and now I can let the joys of the past go. I'm joyful here and now, and I'm going to go my own way. And I'm going to be clever, and I know my cleverness. I know that I'm able to find my own path. I don't have to follow other people, and in following other people, I'm going to lose my opportunities to live my life. Now, that doesn't mean that my path doesn't include other people by any means. I'm not saying we have to push everybody out of our lives. No, but we go our own way. And those that come with us, wonderful. And those who don't come with us, wonderful. We can let them go their own way. Now we have a third question, which is an interesting question, a lovely question after these 2. Let's take a look at it. This question flows beautifully from what is my heart, from the other 2 questions. Yeah, joy to clarity to what is my heart saying. Yeah, the heart song. My heart sings like the sound of music, right? The hills are alive with the sound of music. My heart wants to sing every song it hears. What is my heart saying? What is my heart singing? And what is my heart singing? My heart is singing the Magician and the 3 of Cups. Beautiful combination. Beautiful combination. Let's start with the Magician. The Magician, we see a very typical magician image. We've got the table with all of the tools laid out. We've got the magician with one hand up with a wand, the other hand pointing down as above, so below. We got the lilies, we got the roses, we got everything. Now, this magician has everything that they need. And it's the card of manifestations. And the card of resourcefulness and inspired action and power. Not power over, but the power to do. The power to create. The power to be. The power to feel. Now we got 5 elements, right? 4 plus 1. Yeah? The power, so let's start with earth, the power to do and create. Let's call it the power to create. Yeah? Cups. Swords, the power to think. I have the power to think and to speak. Cups, I have the power to feel and to intuit. The wands, I have the power to act, to fire. And spirit, I have the power to be. To know. Not to think, but to know. To connect. To integrate. And that's the magician. I have all of this potential and I can use that potential. The magician is also just the physical creation of stuff too, right? The creative physical power. I can make stuff happen. And really what it is I can place stuff onto my powerful river of intention, and I can allow myself to move in the direction of them to manifestation. And I can attract them with the power of the law of attraction as well. Now, we have two forces meeting together. We have the power of the power of intention, yes, which moves us forward, and we have attraction, which brings things to us as well. And there's that manifestation point. There's the energetic manifestation, but the physical manifestation point there at the meeting of intention and attraction. And that's what the magician is able to work with and to use and to move with and to flow with and to create with and to manifest. And then right beside the magician, what do we have? We have 3 cups. 3 cups. Celebration, merriment, joy. A lot of joy in this spread, right? We've got a lot of joy in this spread. It's also the card of friendship and collaboration. You notice that each one of these 3 female presenting beings each looks a little bit different, even though, granted, both of these decks are very white Anglo-Saxon decks. But still, these 3 white female presenting women have different hair color, different dress, different styles. Each one of them brings their own special traits, their own special qualities and abilities and talents together. As they join emotionally, they create emotionally. They create in union. They co-create. So this isn't the card of like the 3 of coins or pentacles where it's working together. We do stuff together. This is the joining of emotions. And from that joining of emotions, something new is created as well. Because emotion is both the indication of how open we are to the power of our intention and also the energy that fuels the manifestation of stuff, that fuels creation as well. And so, as we have these 3 different energies coming together, a whole new creation occurs. And it's the card of creativity, of co-creativity. Again, not so much in working together, but that base essence of co-creativity, which arises from an emotional connection and interaction. The alchemy of the cups. Like you see in temperance, right? In temperance, 2 cups. Water flowing impossibly between those 2 cups is also a card of, well, there's balance and harmony and temperance, but also of alchemy. Now, alchemy is part of that cups suit for me as well. And here we have 3 coming together. Perhaps the 3 stages of alchemy, the 3 substances of alchemy. So, what is my heart saying? My heart is saying, I manifest. But I don't only manifest alone, I manifest as a co-creative experience with my peeps, my people, my tribe, my friends, my family, my relatives, my lovers, my everything, all the people that I interact with and that I co-create with and that with whom I have an emotional connection, a bond. That is special within the union of the oneness of all, because there is no separation between any of us. Between the one we think we hate and the one we think we love, there is no separation. And the one that we don't even think we think about, there is no separation, there is only union. There is nothing that needs to be connected because there is no separation. However, within that oneness, within that unity, there are special focuses of attention and interaction and emotional connection. Not saying that there is disconnection elsewhere, but there is an intensification of connection in some relationships. And that's what this 3 of Cups is here to remind us of. We create and we co-create. And it's in that co-creation empowers our creation as individuals as well. Now we have a 4th question. perfect question to be moving into. Let's look at it. This fourth question is a perfect way to end this spread. But before we get to it, let's take a quick review of how we have gotten here. Now, where did we start? We started from the door of abundance. We are abundance in an abundant universe. And as we recognize our abundance and we recognize the divine generosity of the divine, that the divine wants us to prosper, and that we respond in gratitude, we move to our own healing. We move to letting stuff go. We heal our relationships with others where we can, and when we can't, we let it go. And we heal ourselves from our wounds, and we don't carry stuff with us. Especially, we don't carry stuff that weighs us down with us. The stuff that enlightens us, that enlivens us, the things that add energy to our lives, we carry those with us because they're our fuel. But then the rest of the stuff that weighs us down, we let it go. Good and bad. And as we let it go, we realize that our vista has expanded. There are infinite choices available to us. And we can choose our path from among them. And we move beyond what is comfortable into our magnificent future with the power of intention. And so, what is my joy in that moment? What is my joy? My joy is my Knight of Rods. And that was a very strongly emphasized answer in this spread. My Knight of Wands, my joy is my energy, my passion, my ability to recognize and act on my inspiration, my sense of adventure. And so what is clear to me? What is clear to me is that, yes, there were things in my past, some of them are wonderful, but I'm ready to let them go and go my own way. And so what is my heart saying? As I've let it go and I'm going my own way, my heart is saying that I am a creator, I am a manifester, and I don't do it alone, I do it with my tribe, I do it with my people, I do it with those who are co-creating with me. And their co-creative energy feeds my own individual energy, and that is what my heart is saying. My heart is saying, I am full, I am fueled, and I am constantly receiving, and I'm giving fuel to others. And so now, what inspires me? Yeah, my heart has received all of this energy, and so what inspires me? What am I going to do with it? And what do we get? We get the Emperor and the Wheel of Fortune. Interesting answers. A lot of people don't like the Emperor card. How about you? How do you feel about the Emperor card? A lot of people in Tarot have an uncomfortable relationship with particularly two cards, the Emperor and the Hierophant. Because they are so apparently hierarchical, patriarchal, and all of that stuff that we think that we want to get beyond. And certainly we do want to get beyond the heaviness of the patriarchy. Not as opposed to matriarchy, honestly. We want to move beyond patriarchy and matriarchy to usiarchy. We want to go into the non-gendered archy, I think. I think that's the direction we're going in. The wearchy. But so a lot of people have this uncomfortable relationship with the Emperor. But there are other ways of reading the Emperor. And those ways of reading the Emperor, I think, are what actually can inspire us. Yeah, a lot of people see the Emperor as authority, as establishment, as structure. And those are possible ways of reading the card, certainly. But I don't think that's the direction we want to go in this spread. For me, the Emperor is the pair of the Empress. They are both one unification, one couple, one spectrum of what? Of creativity. Now, there's a spectrum of creativity, and there's the Empress side, and there's the Emperor side, and there's no split between them. They're part of a spectrum like a magnet. The moment you split that spectrum, you get two other ends. There's a new emperor and a new empress side to that newly divided piece, just like a magnet. You can't really split them. So there's the empress side and the emperor side. And to me, the empress side is the one of openness to creativity, the one of nurturing creativity, the one of allowing creativity to flourish and blossom within the realm of the empress. The one of nature, one feeding the what do we call that? What did I just say? Feeding the creation, feeding the creativity, feeding the abundance, and allowing it to be as it is and growing. The emperor side is also a creative side. But instead of the one of opening and allowing, it's the one of going out and doing the creation. Yeah, the one of creating, with work. The one of making the creation happen. Not forcing it to happen, not a forceful creation, but one of building stuff, putting stuff together, making form, perhaps paring stuff away, perhaps shaping. Rather than allowing it to be as it is, rather pruning and allowing it to grow in a way that is more healthy. Some growth in the emperor's side can become self-destructive. Just as some growth on the emperor's side can become self-destructive. You pare away too much, you try and force too much, and it becomes self-destructive. On the other side, if you allow things to flourish without allowing them to be, without paring them back, without allowing some to die off, it kills itself in its overgrowth. We want both ends of the spectrum. And what inspires us can be that active creative side. More of the magician side of the creative spectrum. Active creativity. Going out and making stuff happen. That's inspirational. That can inspire us. Certainly, sitting back and watching creation happen can inspire us as well. But here we're looking at doing the creation. Forming it. Creating the art. And also the Wheel of Fortune, which is a very interesting card in this spread. The Wheel of Fortune, often thought of as good luck, karma, life cycles. Can you see, how can life cycles be inspirational? Can you receive inspiration from observing the cycles of life? Now, this might be more of the empress side of the creative spectrum. Observing the wheel of the cycles turning can be inspiring to us as well. Just as the empress can be inspired by watching the seasons go from one to the other and watching nature blossom and grow and then wither and then return to the earth and then spring back up again. Maybe that's what this Wheel of Fortune is trying to remind us of. We do the emperor side, but then instead of the empress side, it's even more of an allowing of the cycles to happen and to observe the cycles and to be inspired by the cycles, to take our cues from the cycles. Perhaps that's it. Perhaps it's not more than just watching the cycles and allowing it to happen, but to take our cues from the cycles that, okay, now it's spring and I can be inspired to do this. Now it's fall and I can be inspired to do that. Now it's winter and I can be inspired to sit and be and to experience and reminisce and to do my wintertime creation. It's also the turning points, where things turn into a different direction. That can be inspiring as well. Continuing on the same path in a straight line without end can be a little bit burdensome and tiring and another day just like the other. It's like when I was living in Los Angeles. Sorry, if you live in Los Angeles, I'm very sorry, but I really did not like living down there. It was only for 1 year, but I really did not like living down there. Every day was the same weather, sunny, sunny, sunny. I need winter, I need spring, I need fall, I need summer, I need all of that. I need rainy, cloudy days and the ability to go outside and feel myself washed from the heavens. I need cold days where I can bundle up and I experience that chill and that bite and that frost and that clean smell of the cold. I need all of that, and living in Los Angeles was just depressing. Every day sun was just too much. Perhaps you don't understand that. I'm sorry if you don't, but I need cycles. And those cycles inspire me as well. And also the wheel of fortune is the card of synchronicity, where things line up as well. There are turning points, sure, but there are times when things line up like the wheels of a safe, where you turn, and suddenly click, that synchronous spot where everything just opens together. That's inspiring as well, isn't it? Where the lock clicks into place and suddenly, poof, it opens. That's a synchronous moment. And that's inspiring. And we can do that. Every moment of every day, we can be that. We can be the emperor, and we can take our cues from the wheel, the cycles of nature, the cycles of our day, the cycles of our bodies. Take our cue from the cycles of when we're active. Take the cue from the cycle of when we are not active, when we need to rest. That can be inspiring. I can be inspired to take a bath. I could be inspired to take a nap. And that nap could be a creative experience. I could have a dream. And in that dream, I could, have a new inspired idea and go out and act on it. Everything doesn't have to be go, 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 go. Yeah? Growth, 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 growth. That it becomes oppressive. The cycle inspires us to do new, different things as well. Does that make sense to you? Can you see how we've gone through abundance and how abundance being the foundation of all of this makes those cycles wonderful and inspirational rather than frightening and worrisome and, oh my God, winter's coming and everything's going to die. It's not going to die. It's just another cycle. Does that make sense to you? I'd love to hear from you. So friends, remember, in just a moment, there's going to be a short clip which describes the decks and who created them. And again, there's information below if you want to go investigate the decks and perhaps purchase them on your own. Friends, if you're still here, hit that like button so that I know that you saw this and were moved in some way by it, that you were affected by it, that it caused you to think, caused you to reflect, was meaningful for you. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed and hit the alarm bell so you get notifications of when I upload videos. And share this on other platforms if you think that somebody might get benefit from it. And comment below. I would really love to hear from you. I'd love to discuss and engage on these ideas with you. And if you want a private reading, if you'd like a reading from me on any topic you're interested in or curious about, or anything that you're living through right now at this moment, I'll have a link to my Instagram account. Go over there, send me a direct message, and we'll work it out. And friends, now, as always, I wish you love, joy, well-being, and pure awareness. Thank you.